Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to Sims Workshop. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. So today we're going to be reviewing The Secret World of Briar Rose by Cindy Pham. This was sent to me by the publisher, so thank you again, publisher. This was really a delight. I will say I do have some grievances with the book, mostly having to do with characterization. And mostly having to do with Corin as the character. Corin's just really, really unlikable. You get why, war-torn land and parents are dead, raising her younger sister who believes in the fairy tale of that the princess of their land, all they have to do is find the palace that's buried in the ground and wake the princess, and then their kingdom will be right as rain, But then, her sister runs off, and Corin's just really, really unlikable. Even though you understand why. It's like, I get why you're so angsty. She's dealing with a lot of trauma. And I will say this for both characters. And this is something I really, really did like in the book. They both deal with different forms of depression. Depression is not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. I tell people I'm manic depressive and they're like, no, you're not. And I'm like, yes, I am. So I was diagnosed in college, and you know what? It tracks, But because of the type of person I am, people don't really believe it because I don't fit the stereotype. And that's something I really, really appreciated with this book. The fact that these are both different representations of what depression can look like. You have Amelia, our princess, and she is Briar Rose, and she's also queer, right? So in her kingdom, she doesn't feel like she fits in at all. She's like, yes, people love me, but why? Because my godmothers blessed people to love me. I have no actual natural talent. My mom died in childbirth. And so she has a lot of depression herself because she doesn't know how to love herself, because everything about her, nothing feels true. It all feels fake. She feels like she doesn't even belong in her own skin. And I really, really liked that representation with her character, because all she wants to do is escape. She just wants to escape. She doesn't even want to live. She just wants to stop existing, right? And you understand, like, at first, it's not really clear, like, oh, you're depressed, like you are suffering from a form of depression. It's as the story progresses and you're getting to know Amelia from the past and her present in the dream world, right? You're seeing the signs like, oh, you were very, very unhappy and you were very, very depressed. No one really saw you. You felt like everyone was looking through you, right? So it's really, really, I love when mental illness is addressed in young adult fantasy, specifically because I feel like young readers themselves struggle a lot with recognizing and getting the kind of acceptance and help that they need. I know I did. So I love seeing it in young adult fantasy in particular, because it's such a young age for people to be reading and to be like, oh my god, I can totally relate. I'm not alone in this world. So I loved seeing Amelia's representation of depression. Corin, her form of depression is different. It is very, very different, but I liked that it was different, because like I said, it's not a one shoe fits all kind of situation. I think that is probably what's really forgiving about her. That she has to deal with her own unhappiness in life. And she's also suffering, PTSD. She's also suffering survivor's guilt. Like, she's going through a lot and she feels a lot. It's a lot of anger. She has a lot of anger as well. And you get it. It doesn't make her a particularly likable character, but you get it. You understand where she's coming from. There were times where I just kind of wanted to be like, oh my god, calm the fuck down. But then again, as someone who is manic depressive, I understand why she's lashing out at this other character. Like, sometimes when I lash out, there's like a voice in the back of my head that's telling me to just shut the fuck up. And you kind of see that in Corin as well. She's like, I can't stop myself, you know, from being this angry and lashing out at the closest person next to me. And it's that level of recognition from her character that does make her really relatable. She's not always likable, but she is relatable. And she does go on a really good character journey throughout the narrative, because she is going with Amelia. They're trying to find a way to prepare themselves for Prince Ezrin's return. So Prince Ezrin is not the Prince Charming that we think and know. Melusine is also not the villain that we think or know. You know, Melusine is in the dream world with Amelia. They have tea time together. The fairies are awful bitches. I kind of fucking hate fairies. I also like that Melusine instinctually goes by they, them. There is no gender, you know, for them. They have no defining gender. They are just Melusine. And I really liked that Melusine was just Melusine. You know? Not of the wicked step god mother or father or, you know, fairy. Just someone who's just trying to exist and find a family. So her and Amelia, they do form a found family. You know, that trope. They form a kinship and they learn to be there for each other. And I think that that's one of the things that really has this, what makes this novel so good, is the characterization, the character dynamics, and the character growth. Because even Amelia, at the end of the book, she recognizes her own faults and makes the hard choices in order to better not just herself, but also her kingdom. You know, she makes the hard choices and the hard decisions, and she becomes someone she loves, and she finds herself in that as well. So her entire 18 years of life, her not being able to find herself, and in her dream world for a century, she's able to find herself. I was really happy with the way that novel ended as well. I think the fantasy and the dream world aspect was really well done. You know, it seemed to be very, very unique, and it adapted to the character. So it was really changing a lot, but in a way that you could easily follow, and in a way that you could really get lost in. You know, it was magical, this dream world of Briar Rose. And I think it was really, really well structured. You know, we're going back and forth between present day, which is Corin and her in the dream world, but then you're going to Amelia's point of view, you know, Briar Rose, and we're counting down to when she falls into the slumber. You know, 100 years from now, 101 years ago, 102 years ago, 103. You know, it starts at the highest point, which I think is 110 years ago. And you're going backwards, and you're learning about all the key players, and then you get to that pivotal climactic moment, and you're like, oh, so this is what happened, and this is what led to the dream area, right? Into the dream. And you're getting to know not just Amelia, but Melusine and Corin and Prince Ezrin, the three fairies, even though they are awful bitches. And I just really liked the story. I liked the sapphic element that was there. I think I liked the sapphic element with Amelia and Corin individually, but then by the end, I think what they needed to do was form, because they do have one kiss, right? There's one kiss at the end, but it didn't seem to fit. Almost, I will say. They each are clearly sapphic characters, but that one kiss just seemed to kind of come out of nowhere, you know? They did form a friendship and everything, and you get to kind of see a dream world where they do get to live happily ever after together, but it seemed like such a stretch, given how their dynamics were laid out throughout the entire narrative, that it didn't seem believable that they should have shared that kiss, you know? I think we didn't get to see a whole lot of them just being friends first, you know? But, you know, ultimately it was a really, really good novel. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thoroughly did. I loved it from beginning to end. Even though I found Corin to be very unlikable, I still quite enjoyed the book. Solid 4 stars. So, in any case, thank you all for tuning in. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with all your book loving friends. And on that note, happy reading.